I came over to more of essential marketing kind of a position when we had our reorg. So I've kind of been working with all of our different internal product marketing teams to help them optimize their webinar programming for all their specific markets. So I'll regularly have campaign kickoff meetings with product marketing teams and some of my essential marketing colleagues where we go over particular objectives like lead gen or thought leadership, and then we try to map out the actual journey on like what are the different content assets that we would need to reach our objectives, and how do webinars fit into that mix? Do we need to have a webinar? So a lot of what I'm doing is kind of like sort of a strategist, but then also in sort of like a player coach sort of role, I'm pretty hands-on as well with a lot of the actual technical setup details of within our webinar platform, and working with our marketing ops team on all the communications that we send out around webinars, whether that's reminder, follow-up emails, or all that stuff. So kind of trying to do a lot of different things in terms of just bringing webinars up to the next level. I can tell you that we had a big growth in webinars even last year before COVID-19 occurred. I think that it started to finally sink in with a lot of the employees, my colleagues, just that webinars can really be effective. In fact, something I wanted to talk about is just that I believe it was 2018, there was a Forrester study which had cited that webinars are now actually the #1 source of lead gen for B2B organizations. So I think that really can't be understated in terms of if you want to cast a wide net and get a lot of people into your funnel, webinars are really an ideal way to do that. So I would say, just to finish answering the question, we've been using webinars to try to get people engaged in the top of the funnel, but then we've also been experimenting with sort of more like lower to mid funnel type of webinars where we might do a product demo, or we might try to dig a little bit deeper into a particular pain point that customers are experiencing.
That's great, and thanks for sharing that. We'll look up that study and maybe share that as a resource for people who are watching this recording as well, because webinars are video content. That's what most human beings are consuming more than text-based content. And so it's such a good vehicle to actually get the message across in the B2B setting in particular, where the content is reasonably complicated, and video just makes it so much easier to communicate that.
Yeah, Piyush, I think you really said it there when you mentioned about how people are consuming video-based content more and more as opposed to text. Something which I like to encourage marketers to do with webinars is to look at, like you just said, how you consume content in your regular life and apply that to a webinar. And there's so much that you can do in terms of like pieces of webinars going viral and being able to snackify them and all that, which I know we'll get to. But it's really amazing just all the things you can do with webinars these days.
So Scott, one thing I want to ask, you mentioned earlier a couple of minutes back, was you came from the product marketing side actually. And so what are some of the biggest similarities and some of the biggest differences in your role from product marketing to webinar marketing?
Yeah, so I guess there's some inherent differences in that my previous role as a product marketer, I was working kind of, I guess, in more of a narrower scope, just on one. It was actually a suite of products, where now it's like I'm just sort of trying to raise the bar for webinars across the company, across the division. But in terms of the differences between like product marketing and like central marketing, I feel like before I was more of like right now, like folks I work with internally are sort of like my internal customers, if you will. And I feel like in my prior role, I was that person. I was the internal customer of the central marketing organization, if you will.